you never know where I might pull out a little firearm, huh? Let's see, we ended up with that little PM9 from a pocket DeSantis holster, and we started out with another fairly small gun, the Walther PPS, 9mm, both calibers, both guns, 9mm. Let's unload them, take a look. Not too different in some ways, but then very different in other ways. We thought we'd get these two guns out. Been getting some requests to get that PPS back out. Kind of forgot about it, as well as the PM9. And we'll just take a look and shoot them a little bit. A couple of 9mm, smallish guns. And I'm going to load this up while I'm yakking at you here. I'll put the slides down there so you can take a look at them in their natural state. How's that? Okay. Ooh, on the roof skin, thanks to Steve Lee. So these are a couple of really nice guns. I really like the PM9, and the Walther, the PPS is great too. It's growing on me. I haven't shot it a great deal, but I really like the size of it in a lot of ways. Where's my mag? Oh, it's in the gun, isn't it? Okay. Yeah, the PM9 just continues to impress, though. It seems no matter whenever I get it out, take a couple of shots, just impressed all over again about that gun, and get a lot of questions about it and about the PPS as well as a few thousand other firearms, and that we already have videos on. So you folks that are kind of new to the channel, hope you get around and check out the playlist, because we are getting a lot of questions about guns that we've maybe done 2 or 3 videos on, quite honestly. So, but these we haven't had out lately. So we're going to do a little bit of a comparison and just shoot them, talk about some of the differences and some of the similarities, because there's so many people looking for a smallish gun. Because these are smaller than a Glock, you know, in a lot of ways. This one's definitely smaller than a Glock subcompact. This one is smaller, very much thinner than a subcompact, at least, you know, if you saw the first video on that. So this class of gun is getting a lot of attention. You know, the LC9, and we can name a bunch of others. The new Solo from Kimber, there's just a lot of them. So let's look at take a few more shots with this PPS. We haven't shot that thing for so long. I'm going to stick these magazines in my pocket, since that's how I wouldn't carry a pocket full of them, but I don't walk around with a mag pouch. I don't know, you may. Alright, got my Comp-Tac Minotaur holster. I kind of like it. Feels pretty good. Gun feels pretty good, just as I remembered it. Wow, drama. I was going just a little bit left. All right. That is sweet. Feels pretty good. I like the trigger. Got the striker fired trigger. You know, I like those. Yeah. I had to throw a few out there at long range. Pretty good old gun, pretty good gun. I tell you, for a thin gun, shoots like a big one. It really does, I have to say. And let's shoot this thing. We got a couple mags loaded. What did I do with the other? I still have one in my pocket. Yeah, we have 3 mags for that one too. All right, PM9. So we're changing. This is more like a double action trigger, but it is striker fired. So let's take a couple shots with it. You saw that. We'll talk about that. Now this one I normally have in my DeSantis holster, although you could carry it in a holster just like this. it will actually fit in that holster. I mean, not well, but a holster like that. I'm gonna put a longer magazine in it. But just to give you an idea, you know, if you wanted to put it in a holster like that, it's not very thick. It's essentially the same thickness as the PPS. Oh, that one. Okay. A couple more rounds here loaded. Yeah, I see some tin cans that need to be shot right here. All right. Emptied those magazines. One thing about these little guns, they're not high capacity. They're not like a Glock or a XD or you know, any of the high capacity guns, H&K, the Beretta, you name it, M&P, these nice high cap guns that we have now on the market, but they really fill a role, and that's what we want to talk a little bit about here, because so many folks are looking at these guns and these sorts of guns. So, you know, as well, I like some sandpaper on the grip, so if you think that's ugly and you hate the stuff, sorry, but you know, it's going to be on mine probably for a long time. These Talon Grips actually makes these now for the PM9, which is great. It makes that thing feel and shoot like a bigger gun now. On the PPS, I added those strips. So actually, that's not even Talon Grip. I think that was some I picked up at Home Depot. Just cut strips out I've had for a long time. All right, so how are these guns similar? How are they different? Well, for one thing, it's hard to find a gun, a little pistol in 9mm, smaller than the PM9. Now, there may be something I'm not aware of. This is just a tad smaller, but that gun is small for a 9mm and very shootable. It just really is. And while I'm talking, let me look at both. Let's look at the magazines. Now, capacity-wise, these guns are very similar. If you want a flush magazine in them like I like, that's a flush one, this is flush, they hold 6 rounds. So both guns hold 6 rounds in the flush mag, and then of course +1. So you got 7 rounds if you're carrying hot. And then there's another mag available for the PPS that holds an extra round, 7. Same with the PM9. This comes with the PM9. So you got a 6 round and you got a 7 round. And here you got 6 and a 7. You know, and I don't recall whether that came with it. I'm thinking it just came with one magazine actually. But you've got a 7 round available. Then you also have an 8 round magazine available. You know, if you want that, you got a bigger grip there, and you got the kind of an extension on there, which some people like. Now you also can get that with the PM9 if you go with a P9 magazine. It'll take any of the P9. This is actually a mag I bought. It's for the P9, and it holds, I think, 8 rounds. So you got kind of a 6, 7, and 8 with either gun, just depending. And of course, this one protrudes, you know, like that, as does this. You know, you got a much longer grip. You don't gain a grip on this, but it doesn't really matter. Anybody's going to carry one of these, they're generally going to, not always, but generally they want the smaller mag, unless it's in a holster. If you got this mag in, you just got to have that big grip, and you got to have a place for that little finger. Then, and you have it in a holster like that, and you don't get a problem there, you know, that's okay. So then you got 8 rounds +1, a lot of ammo, okay, for a gun that size. So capacity wise, there's just really not much difference. It just depends on what you how you want to carry it or what you'd like to have in it. Again, let's put them side by side here and look at some of the, we won't get too technical, but if we put them side by side, both clear. I think the butts lined up there pretty well. Yeah, you can see the grips aren't too much different there. They're very similar in length. The PPS might be just a tad longer, the grip. Well, it is. You consider the back and everything is a little bit longer. I do notice on the, you probably have already noticed that on the PM9, the magazines, they fit flush, but they sort of hang loose just a little bit. So that might, let me go ahead and put them in there, you know, since they're right here on the table. And try to explain it. Let's see what the difference would be. This is the way to look at them with the magazine. Duh, I should know that. There we go. So with the flush mags, there's your difference on the grip. Not a lot of difference, of course, depending on how you're going to pack it, because a little bit goes a long way, makes a big difference. Now you can tell the biggest difference there is when you got a longer trigger guard and you have a longer slide, of course, in barrel. That's considerable difference there. It looks like almost an inch longer there, maybe. So it's a bigger gun when you get down to that measurement. Okay, I think I got the butts there lined up pretty well. So that gives you an idea. Much bigger trigger guard here, and then the length of that gun. So if you perchance were thinking that they're the same size gun, they're not. But in some ways they are. They're both thin-ish. And let's get the calipers here. There's not much difference on the thickness. One of the real cool features of the PPS is the thinness of it. You know, it's a thin gun. You know, the slide and the frame and everything. And the PPS, the slide's about the same. Now I do hang up just a little bit there on the frame. Now get back, squeeze. There we go. Get it to get it over that. Okay. So a little bit of difference on the PM9. It's a little thicker than the PPS, just a tad. Probably not enough to make any practical difference. Again, a little bit goes a long way, but there's not much difference there. Okay, so thickness about the same. Slight edge goes to the PPS in terms of, you know, the advantage. You know, if you feel like thinness is an advantage, and if you're carrying inside the waistband, that's what makes these guns kind of nice, because they are thin, not a big blocky gun of some sort. Okay, if you've ever carried that way. So capacity about the same, thickness about the same, length, the PPS is a good bit bigger. Weight wise, we've got a little difference. We'll show you. Now we're talking about the same capacity here, and I've got empty mags in both guns. So this thing turned on, and we'll see if it weighs the same thing it did a little bit ago. Yeah, 1 pound and 5/8 of an ounce. That's what I was getting before. 1 pound, 5/8 of an ounce. Okay, so just a little over a pound. Now again, we've got an empty mag here. No tricks. That would be fun when I stick a bunch of lead in there. Blow your mind. Okay, we got 1 pound, 5 3/4. That's what we were getting earlier. 1 pound, 5 3/4. See if we get the same reading. Yeah. So we got about 5 ounces heavier on this gun. Okay, so and you can tell it is. If you recall the comparison I did with the Glock subcompacts, this gun was basically the same weight as a Glock 26 or Glock 27, which was a little bit of a surprise to me and maybe to you when you saw that video. Okay, so this gun is not light. That's not the advantage of this gun. The only real advantage to this gun over a Glock 26 is the thickness or thinness of it. You get right down to it, because you're giving up capacity, but you're getting a thinness. And you can look at that video if you haven't seen it, but you know, with the Glock is thicker. It's thicker, but the thinness you get with the PPS. I mean, unless you just prefer a Walther over a Glock, you feel like they're much higher quality, or you prefer the mag release there on the trigger guard. I mean, there could be other reasons, you know, and things I might not point out. I'm, you know, subjective as well, but the thinness is the biggest difference as far as I see, and as far as me carrying it or shooting it, that's it. I will say one of the negatives on this gun, the little trigger safety, you know, similar to what the Glock has, tends to cut my finger a little bit there in the joint. If I don't get my finger right, I after I shot it a little bit, I can feel the pain of that. I get a little bit of a bite from that. Okay, because it's sharper than a Glock. All right. Trigger wise, you've got the striker fire mechanisms on both guns, and pretty nice triggers. However, the PM9 is a double action, more or less. You got a longer pull, and before it breaks, but it's got a nice trigger. I mean, it really does. It's one of the things that attracts people to the Kahr lineup, the PM9. So you don't want to confuse it with a typical double action trigger. You know, you need to try one out if you've never pulled one, because they're really nice. You know, I'm picky, if you've seen many of the videos, about triggers, especially on little guns, the smaller the gun. I mean, there are some little guns that might fit my hand okay, but the trigger renders them almost unusable. by me. Okay, and that's the thing I complain about probably most often that you hear with some of the other guns I shoot, is how far back it breaks and all those sorts of things. But these guns, I like it because obviously you're carrying that thing hot generally. So you got some travel there, it's smooth, and when it gets back there, you know when it's going to break, and it breaks nicely. I mean, Kahr has done wonders with that trigger. And again, this, not to be negative about these triggers, this is like a Glock trigger. It's got that same nice break. Feels very much like a Glock 26. Let's start with a PPS. Holster that rascal and take some extra mags. All right, got to make these rounds count. I don't have lots of high capacity magazines to burn. Let's see, what do we want to, let's go for a precision shot on that little plate on the challenge target. Again, I like that. Interesting, interesting. How about a little tree shooting? Okay. One just absolutely disappeared on me. He's gone. Does okay. I might try for an animal. I think that pig in the middle road needs to be knocked over. Let's see if I can figure out where to hold on him. There we go. For a little gun, he'll reach out there. Let's go all the way to the gong a couple of times. Reaches right out. If I can knock that ram over. Probably not with a 9. Although we've got 147 grain bullets we're shooting. All right, for a little gun, it's a real gun. I've got another mag here. I will admit that the of these two guns, the Walther is probably easier to shoot well, because again, it is more like a Glock in terms of the weight of it. Like I said, it weighs the same as the subcompact, so the only real difference is the thinness of it. You know. Let's just go from the holster. And if I was going to carry in a holster, yeah, it might make sense to go, if we were deciding between these two guns, this gun's big enough where it kind of moves you into the holster realm, you know, more so than a pocket gun, even with the flush magazine. This is a pretty big pocket gun. Now it could be done because the subcompact Glocks can be carried that way in the right pocket. It takes a pretty big pocket. Okay. But I think of this more as a thin, streamlined belt gun. That's kind of the way I look at it. Just a really nice shootable firearm, you know. These are my hand loads with random brass. You know, we didn't have any trouble, so it seems to be a pretty reliable piece of hardware there. Okay, now the PM9, not quite as easy to just hit whatever you want to hit with it, but very shootable as well. Let's take a few with it. Now the one of the negatives about the PM9, I may have pointed out, maybe once it's broken in, it won't be that way so much, but it's recommended you go ahead and put the mag in and then load it in the battery by releasing the slide lock like that. If you just pick that gun up like a Glock or anything else and just rack around without thinking too much, you know, some automatics you can actually rack around in slowly. You know, you can take your time, it'll just suck it right up. These modern Wonder 9s and everything. The PM9 is not so much. That's the one negative. However, you get the round in there, it works fine. For that reason, if I was just dead set against carrying a gun hot, I'm not sure I'd advise the PM9. That's just me. Okay. you might disagree. So let's, I'm going to put it in this holster, even though it's not really designed for it. I mean, I'm sure Comp-Tac has one for it. This is just for the, specifically for the PPS. Okay, what else do we want to shoot here? Let's see, that's all the ammo. I've got a couple of mags here. Let's just pick something off. Empty. Too soon. Too soon. Got me another. That was just me. I got to get used to the different trigger after shooting that other gun. That's like shooting a Glock and then going to this kind of a double action striker fired gun. Let's see. All right. Yeah, I got one. Okay. Let's reach out. There we go. I figured out where to hold. It was looking like this gun is not as accurate, and it really is. Now, it's not necessarily as easy to shoot well. Let's see if I can hit that turkey. There we go. Not bad. Both of these guns will get the job done, I will have to say. Again, I've got a P9 magazine in there. I've never had a P9 car, so I'm not familiar with it. But this little gun, it's just a matter of getting used to that trigger again after shooting that Glock-like trigger. But I really like this trigger, and I'm very picky about them. This little rascal, let me load one more mag for that gun. Let's load the big one here. This is nice that you can just pick up these P9 mags, and I guess that's the biggest one they make for the P9. I'm not that familiar with that gun. This one holds 8, I think. And for a backup mag, I always like a bigger magazine, either the 7 or the 8 rounder. But these are two really nice guns, I have to say. Let's take a few shots with this guy. What do we want to shoot? Fun. PM9 and the PPS. Like I say, this I think of as more of a pocket gun. Doesn't have to be, but it will fit in most pockets if you're inclined to use a pocket holster. You know, it's a little bigger, of course, than the P380 in the Kahr line or an LCP, but you might find that it's not too big. Okay, so a pretty handy little piece of hardware there. This one, we start getting into that realm where you might want a holster, okay, a belt holster, either inside the waistband or outside the waistband. It's a pretty big gun, and it's pretty heavy. You know, it's a Glock 26 in weight, so that's a key characteristic of that gun. So both 9mm, you can get 40, and both of these guns are, I think, a little bit bigger, and the PM40, whatever it's called, is a little bit bigger, but they come in different calibers, and can't go wrong with either one of these. Just depends on your purpose. So anyway, that's just two of the guns in this class, but since I have them, thought I'd give you a look at them, and you wanted to see them again, and guess what? I wanted to shoot them again, because I never want to miss an opportunity to do that. So hope you enjoyed that, and you guys come back, see us at the compound. Life is good.